Welcome to the Sportscaster Dan podcast. Here is your host, Dan Lavallo.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sportscaster Dan podcast and my picks for kicks. Now, you know, during the regular season, I predicted the NFL games involving teams in my area, the Patriots, the Giants, the Jets, and then I would pick a couple of extra games. And during the regular season, I thought I was a respectable 40-24. I didn't use the line. I didn't pick as far as the line, over and under, none of that. I just gave you the outright winners, and I was 40-24. Well, last week, Wild Card Weekend was a disaster, an absolute disaster. I was 1-5. I had just one correct pick. So let's review those before I give you my picks for the divisional weekend. This is always a lot of fun, this divisional weekend. I'll be glued to every game. Actually, I'm going to miss part of the first game. I have a University of Hartford basketball doubleheader to broadcast, which I love to do. A women's game followed by a men's game. That is fun. That is really something I enjoy doing. So I'll miss the first part of the Ravens game against the Texans. But first of all, last week I had the Browns beating the Texans. Did not happen. I mean, Houston blew them out. The Browns' defense did not show. I should have realized when the Browns play on the road, their defense never shows. So I was wrong there. I had the game at night played under frigid conditions, the game that was streamed solely on Peacock and set a record for most viewers for a stream, 23 million. I had the Chiefs defeating the Dolphins, and that is exactly what happened. Then that leads to the Sunday games. I was way off the mark there. Just awful. I had the Cowboys defeating the Packers. Who didn't have the Cowboys defeating the Packers? So I don't feel alone there. The Packers just played outstanding. And let me tell you, they are going to, whatever happens over the weekend, they are going to be launching another championship run. This is a good, young Packers team. But they surprised the Cowboys. And then Jerry Jones surprised everybody because he didn't fire Mike McCarthy. But anyway, the Cowboys lost, and America's team has gone since 1995 without not only winning a Super Bowl, but not even making the conference title game. So that's a disaster. Then I had the night game. I had the Rams defeating the Lions. They almost pulled it off. Rams losing by 1 point. And then on Monday, the game that was postponed because of the weather, I had the Steelers upsetting the Bills again. What was I thinking? Pittsburgh was going to go into Buffalo and pull off an upset in Buffalo. Did not happen. But Mike Tomlin will be back as Steelers coach. His choosing, and good for him. I like Mike Tomlin. I know he has his critics, but good for Tomlin. And I hope the Steelers go deep into the playoffs next year. And then I had the night game between the Eagles and the Bucs. I thought the Eagles were going to snap out of their funk. I really thought that this 1-5 period they were going through would end and they would win. Instead, they end up, 1-6 now? After a 10-1 start, they end up 11-7, counting the loss to the Bucs in the wild card game. So that leads us to the weekend and the divisional games. So there are my picks for those watching, but I'll read them to you for those just listening to the podcast. But here are my picks. Beginning with the first game on Saturday, the Ravens, the number 1 seed, the AFC number 1 seed, but also overall the best team in the NFL, I believe. They will beat the Texans. C.J. Stroud is something. You've got to give Stroud credit. He's one heck of a quarterback. And he's just starting out his career. But look out, because C.J. Stroud is the real deal. But the Ravens, playing at home, are going to have enough to stop Stroud. So I am picking the Ravens to win that game on Saturday. And then the night game Saturday night, Green Bay at San Francisco. Weather actually could have a bigger impact on that game than on the Buffalo game, according to meteorologist Brad Field, with whom I do a podcast about weather. And you can follow that along by going to bradfieldweather.com. Apparently there's going to be a lot of rain on Saturday in the San Francisco area. So that said, The 49ers are going to beat the Packers on Saturday night, which leads us to Sunday. A couple of exciting games, beginning with the first game, the Detroit Lions hosting Tampa Bay. Detroit's the real deal. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Dan Campbell has really done something as the Lions coach. They've turned things around. They've sent a message to the rest of the league. They're playing at home. So as much as the Bucs came on strong to win the division and then dismantle the Eagles, I am picking the Lions to beat the Bucs, which leads us to the Sunday night game, Kansas City, Buffalo. Buffalo at home. This has been a great rivalry. Kansas City has had the upper hand over Buffalo in the postseason. But now remember, under Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City has never played a road playoff game unless you're talking about the Super Bowl. But other than that, with Mahomes as quarterback, Kansas City has never played a road playoff game. So people are wondering, how are the Chiefs going to do? What's going to happen? Is Kansas City going to get embarrassed by Buffalo? Particularly since Buffalo is aching to finally beat the Chiefs, and Buffalo is the home team. And the weather's going to have a big impact. Kansas City's playing in Buffalo. Well, wait a minute. Don't talk to me about the weather the way Kansas City played last week. As if, by the way, playing in Kansas City is like playing in South Florida. It is not. So the weather's not going to be an issue with the Chiefs. They're a cold weather team. But beyond that, I think Kansas City will beat Buffalo. So I am picking the Chiefs to beat Buffalo. So, in review, the Ravens over the Texans, the 49ers will beat the Packers, and then on Sunday, I am picking the Lions over the Bucs, and then on Sunday night in a game which I think might set a record for viewers watching a divisional playoff game, I am predicting that the Kansas City Chiefs will beat the Buffalo Bills. So it's going to be a wild weekend, to say the least. So there you have it. I'm going to be posting this on my sportscasterdan.com Substack website. This will be in all of the podcast directories if you would like to subscribe to the podcast. And I am also going to be putting this on my YouTube channel. And there it is. My YouTube channel is, as you see, at the Dan Lavallo. That's my YouTube URL. So that said, enjoy the games, everybody. Have a lot of fun. It's going to be a great weekend. Get out wherever you're going to watch the game, whether it's at your favorite establishment or maybe your favorite establishment is right in your living room. Whatever, enjoy the games, and we'll see how I do on my picks. I can't do much worse than what I did last week, going 1-5, but we shall see. It's going to be an exciting weekend. As always, thanks for listening and for watching the podcast. I'm Dan Lavallo.